Hello, everybody. Welcome to Sonic Talk, episode 765, recorded today on Wednesday. What is the Wednesday? What is it today? It's Wednesday, the 2nd of August. That's right. I should know this. Anyway, this is a music technology podcast. We talked about all things to do with the kind of world of production, synthesizers, software, drum machines, playing live, all kinds of stuff, streaming, whatever kind of works really, and whatever music technology touches together with our sort of lives in culture. I should also point out that yes, I do have a cast on. This is my broken wrist, which I suffered last week, but I'm fine, thank you. And I've figured out that I just need to move the mouse to my other hand and I should be all right. So everything's good. I want to say hello and thank you to the chatties. As ever, thank you very much to Wagyu for handling the chat room, making sure that it's moderated, and also keeping an eye on the code, which pulls all of the channels, the Twitch, the IRC, the YouTube, all together. Nice to see a bunch of you in there. I think I just saw... we've got Pendle, Stephen, Paula Blank, Red Walks, Zen Artist, and I did see another name which has gone past. Problem is, when you're doing this, you don't have much room for short-term memory because you've got to think in the moment. You have to keep control of it all. But while I do remember, I will just do a plug for our Patreon, so stand by. Hey, why not consider joining us on Patreon? We've been a bit more active recently. We've got a couple of recent posts. I posted a preview of the Soma Terror, which we've got in for review. If you have any questions there, you can leave them on the comments on Patreon. Also posted first of our 360 camera walkarounds from the recent Gearfest UK show. Not only that, but you'll also get ad-free content of everything that we post monetized to YouTube. You get access to the Sonic Talk pre-show. You get samples and exclusive video, some audio stuff as well. And if you post before the end of the show, you'll get your name in lights. That's assuming you go for the upper tier, which is $6 a month, which is barely anything really. Anyway, thank you very much for consideration, and for those of you who already support us, we appreciate it. And for those of you who are considering supporting us, thanks again in advance. Back to the show. Yes, I should point out when I meant name in lights, it actually means that your name will end up in the credits at the end of this show because it comes in automatically. There's some magic that goes behind the scenes with APIs and whatnot. And actually, subsequently, I posted a little update about my arm and how things might be a bit slower because I can't play the keyboards. Unfortunately, reviews are going to be, certainly from me, are going to be a bit slower just because of that. But also, we have got some sample packs coming up, which we've always been meaning to do this, and we're now going to start adding those to what you can access, outside of the reviews as well. So please do take a moment to think about it. Anyway, I want to say hello to our guests. We'll start with Robbie Puricelli from Failed Muso, failedmuso.com. Well, not only Failed Muso and the Sound podcast and many other things besides. He's also, are you writing for Gear News as well now? Did I see your name on a few articles? Yeah. In fact, did you write, I think you might have written one of the articles that we're referencing about how to sound like Tame Impala, possibly.
No, that wasn't mine. That wasn't mine.
You. I saw you did one before.
One.
It was a good one, yeah.
Yeah, it was good.
Anyway, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Certainly, not suffering as you are, but all good here, and getting very busy at the moment. I've got loads of things. Like my desk is a mess. I've got nowhere really to put my arms. I just got one of these the other day, the little black box from 1010, which is brilliant. This is really good fun. And then this just arrived this morning from France, which is it looks like a guitar pedal. It kind of is, but it's designed to be used with live for triggering loops and live looping. And it's I've got that, and I've got other things that I can't show, and it's really busy. So that's all good.
Excellent. And of course, you've got the DX1 behind you there in case anybody should question your credentials. Check out. Look at my synth. It says. Look at that. What a beautiful thing. And I have to say, I'm very impressed that you haven't put stuff on it, because it is frankly a large flat surface area which, and left for any time in most places, will be covered in all kinds of things, right?
Yeah. It's just Neil and Chris from the Pet Shop Boys at the moment, but yeah, it is kind of tempting to put things on there. But the thing is, it's been okay. It's not been very well. We think we know what the problem is, but every now and again I have to open it up, and literally the whole top CS80 style comes up. So I can't, if I put anything on there, it just falls down the back. So it luckily stays fairly clear.
I was going to ask you what your policy was about mugs, but that's clearly
Oh no!
clearly. Oh no, I guess not. Well, the other thing is I remember because I used to have to do this with I used to have a Jupiter 4, which I had to open quite regularly and tune the voices because it used to be terrible in variable temperatures. And I remember once I had my hand on the side and the thing shut, and the corner of the thing went. Oh, well, watch out for that. You need some heavy strutting. And
yes,
safe to health and safety on that stuff.
Yes, indeed.
Just to make sure you don't chop your hands. Ouch. Anyway, well, I'm glad to hear it's working. And, and everything's lovely. Well. So, are you creating many patches for it? Or are you just enjoying it?
No, well, so this year is the 40th anniversary of the DX7 being launched. It launched in May '83, and to celebrate that, I'm doing I have been doing kind of shows or synth shows with DX material, doing Synthfest in October. So doing a seminar with a very wonderful programmer called Dr. Manny Fernandez, who programmed lots of the original stuff. He's coming in from America to help me with that. And I've been taking stuff around. I actually took this to Synthesize, which is a small show in Cambridge at a computer museum, and it behaved impeccably, which was really surprising because it doesn't like being moved. But I'm not taking that all the way to Sheffield. That's just a big thing. So no, but I'll be taking the TX816 instead. Yeah, I'll be taking the TX816 as well to Sheffield with a QX1 and an RX11. And the DX7, which was what they called the YCAMS rig, the Yamaha computer-assisted music system.
Nice.
So that'll be there. Yeah.
Scritchy Politti will be very proud of you, yes. I'm sure, yeah. And, of course, we also have Yoad Nevo, who's there in Nevo Sound in the studio, where I believe he's working on Atmos and amongst many other things. Thank you for taking time out to join us. How are you, Yoad? Are you well?
Yeah, I'm very well, thanks. Good to be here as always. It's probably I try to think it's probably like around my 100th show or something, 100th show really? Or something. I joined, what are we on now? 7?
6,
I
5.
think I joined when it was like 300 or something. So quite a few years back, yeah.
If I had anything about me, I should be able to figure out a way to have people's running totals, but I'm just trying to think. I don't think everybody. I would do now because I've got it all in spreadsheets, but I don't use a database for it. But maybe I can get ChatGPT to count it for me. How many? I'll ask. Maybe we should ask ChatGPT whether it'll do it.
Yeah. I remember the few first show. I was like, trying to get the camera right, and like an hour before to set up the lighting and all that. And today I joined it. Like 4 minutes before 4 or something like that. So I feel much more at ease.
Yeah,
I hope that good. It doesn't show that much.
Yeah, well, no, it's fine. It's always good to have you. Thank you very much for joining us, Joe. In fact, we were talking a little bit before the show, weren't we, about because you're working on an Atmos mix at the moment. And I think, part of what you were saying was about having to work with the Atmos renderer for mastering, which is the Dolby renderer, which is a little more technically challenging, perhaps, than just sort of putting stems out of Logic. But I've noticed I think Ben Jordan and a couple of other articles where it's like, have we been oversold the promise of Atmos? And I'm wondering and we were sort of discussing that a little bit. And partly, I think we can all agree that perhaps it's down to the listening environment, because to get the most out of it, you almost have to be in a scientifically measured environment to get what the author of the mix originally intended, and that's not something that we really have. Many of us have access to. It's a bit like there's only a certain number of IMAX theatres, and if you make a film for IMAX, it's like, well, how many people are actually going to see it? I wonder what you think. I mean, because you're now, you're certified, you're working on this stuff. I mean, it's part of the canon of your daily life. Do you find were you expecting some more innovation to be able to make it more accessible by now?
I think that the key issue here is the translation to headphones, because as we all know, 99.9% of the population consume music on headphones. And although we only have 2 ears, yet we can hear surround and we can hear obviously life is quite immersive in terms of the sonics of it. The translation to headphones is not yet that great. You get some, so when the difference between hearing it in this room, which is very meticulously calibrated, all the speakers are at an equal distance from my nose and things like that, and I sit here in a kind of very controlled environment. The thing that has to be said is that Dolby Atmos mixes, when they're done properly, usually translate well to other Dolby Atmos listening environment or 714 listening environments, at least. So the problem remains the translating it to binaural. And I've worked on the Waves NX, which is, it's decent. There are other similar technologies, and the built-in Dolby Atmos binaural encoding and the Apple encoding. But it's not great. And in theory, we should be able to emulate what we're hearing with our two ears. And people forget, because when you think about surround, you think, but we only have two holes here and we hear everything in surround. So in theory, we should be able to get good results. And we are, like I said, I was involved with the technology that tries to emulate that, but there's still a long way to go. I feel that the motivation has somewhat diminished, and there's a kind of a little bit of there was a big hype around Dolby Atmos for consumers, but I'm still hopeful, because I'm enjoying very much the headroom, the extra headroom. It's not only the kind of immersive experience, it's just the fact that instead of trying to condense everything into two speakers, you have 12. So in terms of the dynamic range and headroom, and especially when I produce in Dolby Atmos from the beginning, so that opens a lot of possibilities, and I am still excited about that. And hopefully things will improve on headphones, because that's the key. And until such time where we have completely autonomous satellite speakers which can get powered by Wi-Fi and get the audio, so you don't have to attach wires and power leads and things like that, and you can just throw them somewhere on the walls and the ceiling easily. Even then, I can't see too many people adopting that approach. And like I said earlier, this is something that we've experienced with in the early 2000s when the 5.1 kicked in, which I was very heavily involved with the development of products for that as well, but it didn't catch on because of that. But back then we didn't have the binaural kind of technology that we have now, but it's still, I wouldn't say it's early days, but it needs to be better.
I have a thing. So I'll come to you second, Robbie. I've literally just had a thought. What's wrong with the idea of having a kind of larger over-ear headphone that effectively has a speaker here, a speaker here, a speaker here, and then one in the middle, and they have that on both sides, and so that you have the ability to create that psychoacoustic movement. Is that something that is just a total non-starter? Because it seems to me it might actually be possible.
So the structure of the ear, the pinna and the filtering and the acoustic nature of the ear itself, the structure, the physical structure of the ear itself is key to our perception and spatial hearing. When you try to emulate it with something other than real speakers in the room, you better off emulate the early reflection and the filtering kind of properties, because it's not very viable.
That's a shame. I thought I was onto something then. I really thought I got it. I thought, that's my ticket. Someone would go.
It does work with stereo. I remember that AKG used to have these headphones, which were like actually two speakers. So the headphones would come like that, but then you would tilt the speakers to get the angle. And they sounded great. It wasn't headphones in the terms of isolation, because it was just two small speakers, but they sounded really, really good. It was I don't remember what it was called. So yes, but no, unfortunately.
Yes, but no. I don't know. I confess, Robbie, I don't think I've ever heard a properly set up Atmos system, which is, I feel ashamed to say. There's usually been too much of a queue, or I feel it's a bit like walking into a car showroom where you're kind of, you're not going to buy it, so you don't want to waste their time by sitting down in it. And I really feel I should actually check it out.
I mean, I got into, I've got everything except the speakers. That's the next thing for me to complete my Atmos system. But I've been into surround sound, or whatever you want to call it, spatial audio, as they since probably the 90s, when I had the Dolby Pro Logic system, and I was listening or watching movies in Pro Logic, which was a matrix based system, so it wasn't discrete, but it was okay. It kind of gave you the idea of being immersed in a film. And then 5.1 came out, DVDs helped really popularize that, and then we started to see music being released in 5.1, and I got very excited, because that's that was my main interest. And some there's good mixes, there's bad mixes, some that really work really, really well in 5.1, others maybe not so much. There was a classic, somebody took Pet Sounds and did that in 5.1, and it was absolutely awful. And it's just one of those albums that just really sounds best in mono. But I've got boxes, literally they are still in boxes, because I moved house not long ago, and of 5.1 albums, and I'm still buying them today. I'm waiting for ABC's Lexicon of Love to arrive on Friday, which comes with an Atmos mix and a 5.1 mix and the stereo mixes and all that. I love it, but it's got to be done right. And I got really excited when Apple said that they were going to, they obviously rebranded it Spatial Audio, but they were going to be distributing music in Atmos. But it's so heavily compressed that it doesn't sound that great. And then, as Yoad has very expertly pointed out, most people listen on headphones. They've not got the binaural thing right, so it doesn't really sound as impressive as it would if you listen to it on a proper speakered system. So we had this kind of impasse where the cost prohibited people from getting into it, and also the partner annoyance factor, where you're draping wires all around the room to put the speakers in the right places, and you're drilling holes and all this kind of stuff. But we simplified the delivery, or seemed to simplify the delivery, but then with Atmos we've made the other part even more complicated, because you're going to need at least 11 speakers. For a 714 system or above, then you're going crazy, and you're going to have stuff in the ceiling or things that are firing upwards, and is it going to be right? And as again said, calibration's a really important thing, and it seems to be always shooting itself in the foot as a format, and the public's perception of it isn't great, and I try and champion it as much as I can, but there's just so many obstacles, so many other things need to get ticked off the list before it does become it has to be headphones, because even if you go through all of that and you calibrate your room, it's only going to be one at a time. Only one of you can hear it properly at a time, really. Unless you've got music's a little different, because I found, because I at one point I had 3 5.1 systems in my house. I had one in my, inverted commas studio, just for listening to, it wasn't for mixing or anything, it was just for listening to material. I had one where the games machines were, and I had one in my lounge where my big TV was. And each of those sounded slightly different, but, I had a very patient wife who tolerated, all these speakers everywhere. but it's music was certain things. I remember listening to Depeche Mode's albums when they were all released in 5.1, and whilst there wasn't, if you focus on the center channel, and this is where a lot of mixers sometimes get things wrong, is if you use the center channel for the lead vocal, that then does kind of spoil it, because it does lock you into that film paradigm of having to sit in the sweet spot and stay there for the rest of the album. But some mixers do just tend to use the extra speakers for space, to let things breathe, and you don't just have instruments or vocals locked to certain speakers. You're just kind of opening up the soundstage. And when I was listening to those Depeche Mode albums, I was hearing elements that I'd never heard before, simply because they'd now got, 5 speakers to kind of, push things. Things weren't getting mushed up. So whether that was because they weren't mixed great in the first place, or whether it's because they were mixed fantastically, I don't know. But it certainly does make a difference, and I really enjoy it. And I know a lot of people would disagree with me, and that's just the way it is.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay. Well, I think it's a good time. I really must sit down and have a proper listen. In fact, they did have a big focal, or a little focal system in the at Gearfest in the UK in London, and I almost went, but it's like I had to go and shoot something else. I really must make a point of doing it, because I haven't yet, and I suppose I feel like people who are going to be doing that are going to be asking me questions that I'm going to sound like an idiot when I answer them incorrectly. I suppose I feel like I might be found out for something or other, my lack of experience, which I agree, fully lack of experience in anything to do with surround. Anyway, I should have a mention from we have a new sponsor. It's time to hear from them. Discover the Effects Bundle by UVI, a value-packed collection including UVI's entire classic effects line: Shade, Plate, Spark Verb, Dual Delay X, Relayer, Rotary, Phaser, Taurus, Drum Replacer, and the all-new Opal, a modern emulation of the iconic optical compressor, including stunningly accurate models of 7 different units. UVI effects are crafted to the highest standards, delivering versatile, high-quality sound shaping tools powered by advanced DSP. Introductory offer currently available. Learn more at bit.ly/UVIFX23. That's bit.ly/UVIFX23. And, well, we're happy to welcome them aboard, so thank you very much to them for joining us. Much appreciated. Only nice to have a couple of weeks down when our last one left, so yes. Woohoo! Anyway, right, we've got other things to talk about. I mean, so far we've been completely off-piste. There's absolutely this wasn't even in the list, so I feel like we're going to be all right, folks. Don't worry. So I'm wondering whether or not where to go next. I'm thinking maybe I'm going to go with, let's have a look. Let's do this one. Let's go for let's go for this one.
Hi and welcome to Cinematic Instruments. Today I'd like to present you a new, small but very nice instrument. And the best thing is, the instrument is for free. The instrument is
Great way to do a demo, I thought.
And there's a looper, a sample player, and has a granular engine on which
and has a granular engine.
It does take a little bit of concentration to kind of figure out what's coming next, but it's a really well put together thing. This is from Cinematic Instruments. Basically, they've got some really good, reasonably priced libraries as well. They've got the Vertigo collection, which I think is strings and flute, around €75, and the Ensemble chamber orchestra is a bit more expensive, but there are some really good demos, actually, if you check out the demo page. This is free. You do need Contact 6 full or later, because it doesn't work in player. In fact, I'm not sure what the current state is, because obviously to release instruments as a Contact player, you have to pay NI to compile it together. So I wonder if it could be done, but I don't know at what point past free does it become, how much would it have to be to make it viable? So you'd have to buy Contact at the moment, which I think is $269 at the moment, but it's almost, I really like the sound of it. You listen later on in the demo, and there's some just really lovely, from what looks like a very basic interface, some really nice stuff. I don't know what you thought about that, Robbie. There's some really... I don't have Contact, but it's almost made me think like maybe I should ask for an LFR.
Yeah. Well, I like you, I didn't have Contact for a long while, then had a need to have it, not from a production point, but when people were sending me stuff like this to review, I needed something to play it. And as you say, the player is so restrictive to the developer because it costs them, more money to put it into that platform. I love Granular. I'm a big sampling guy. That was kind of my big love for many, many years. And what people are doing with Granular now is quite exciting. And I had a little play with this afternoon, and it's just great fun. And you can really, get some wonderful sounds. It's very easy. It's a nice interface. The only downside is it's in contact. Yeah, it is. Just drag and drop it in, and there's just a few dials, and you can then just move things around, live and mess around with it. And yeah, it's free, so why wouldn't you do it? I mean, so the only downside is it's on the Kontakt platform, and that that's going to cost people money if they haven't already got it. But Granular is, I think, it's certainly in the last year or so, it's gained a lot of traction. It's been around for a while, but it seems to now be quite commonplace, which is a good thing because I think you can get some great stuff. I remember when it was actually going back to your sponsors. I think UVI produced Mac 5.3 before they moved, parted ways with Motu, and then it became Falcon. And there was a demo, and it probably still is on YouTube, where somebody took the opening brass section from the Star Wars theme, shoved it through the granular engine of Mac 5.3, which is further improved in Falcon, and just found one grain, and then just made this beautiful pad from this one grain. And it was all done in a very short space of time. And it was just stunning what you could actually do now just by breaking a sample into its tiniest little sort of constituent bits. A lot of fun, and it's free. So yeah, gets a big tick in my book.
Yeah, nice. I think it is kind of interesting. I think my first proper exposure to it, I think we covered it on the show many moons ago. It was the pull stretch, and it was Justin Bieber slowed down by 6,000%. And it's just, when done well, it is beautiful. And for those who are interested, actually, pull stretch X was that there is a UI version of it that you could load as a plugin, which I think I did. I did a demo or a sound thing on it many moons ago. It's nice, isn't it? This, I mean, I don't know whether Kontakt and is so widely used. A lot of manufacturers now are sort of building their own engines, so maybe less people will have it. But it's still a big factor of what's out there, right?
So Kontakt is the kind of still de facto sample library vehicle. I've been using Kontakt for forever since it came out. I used to like Kontakt 2, I remember fondly, but ever since then I feel that it's very, very sluggish, even with today's M1 and all that. And every time there's an update, I'm hoping that it's going to be, just it loads. It takes a while to load, but more than that, that's something that I can live with. But when you have a few instances, or even just one, from the moment you click on it till the moment you see the GUI, it can take like 10-15 seconds, and it seems to be it's always been like that. And for me, it's a work. I just can't use it. I used to use EXS because it was just instant, and now I use Nexus for most of my sample needs. And I do have a lot of Kontakt libraries, but I don't use them much. I tend to use the East-West and the Muso, like you said, their proprietary playback engines. With regards to this granular product, there's an issue with all of Kontakt sort of base products, because they're using the built-in time stretch algorithms. And what they've done here, it's basically kind of hacking. A lot of developers do that because that's what you have. You have the Kontakt platform, which is very capable, and it has a lot of features, but it doesn't have the best time stretch algorithms, and that's what they've been using here. So basically, they're manipulating the start point of the sample and the loop points in real time. So they expose the controllers to the users. And as a software developer, as a plugin developer, I cringe when I hear the clicks and the glitches and all that. So for me, it's not a platform for a professional product. If you compare it to the granular capabilities of what's it called? The Arturia Pigments, which is very, very smooth and very lush, and it's it's meant for this purpose. So if you would ask me whether to invest 200 or however much the Kontakt costs in order to get this free product, or to get Pigments, which is probably cheaper, I believe, to do the same thing.
Yes.
Plus, you get like 1 million presets and all the other synth engines and all that. I think it's a no-brainer. So
Very
I
good
see
point.
it more as a gimmick, it's quite easy to create these atmospheric pads and stuff with granular with a granular engine. And once you set it and you play, it's fine. But when you tweak it and you get all those glitches,
It's
and
not.
stuff,
It's not real time. That's interesting. Do
yeah.
you? Because I imagine the whole kind of Kontakt engine and licensing sort of business model has been the kind of foundation of a lot of what has made Native Instruments, money over the years.
Absolutely.
It would be surprising, or it is actually quite surprising, that they haven't tackled some of that stuff. Just licensing or designing better time stretch algorithms, M1 capability, native stuff, which will really, when you consider the name of the company's Native Instruments, it kind of isn't native. It's just emulation instruments, which is a bit sort of, it's quite ironic in a way as a result. But I wonder if it's coming.
The thing is that they do have the Reaktor platform, and in Reaktor you have some beautiful granular-based instruments. Some of them are commercial, released by Native, and some of them are free from the user community and all that. And they are much more capable. And I'm sure that, I don't know how much Reaktor costs as a standalone. I always get the complete ultimate and all that.
Actually, I should say, Pendle Stevens says, I think for 50% more than just Kontakt, you could get complete standard, which presumably will have that stuff in it as well. It's probably worth checking out. I can't
and
confirm that at the
Reaktor
moment
as well. So I would, for people who want to experiment with granular stuff, there's some lovely patches on Reaktor for that, and Pigment. I love Pigment. It's a bit fiddly because it has so many features, but the sound quality and the presets and the other stuff it does,
actually, not only that, they got a really good, they took that sort of whole notion of that you get a lot with software instruments where there's so much going on under the hood, but you can't really see what's going on. And Pigments really address that with that sort of modulation. It's almost like the 1U rack in the middle of your Eurorack system, where you have a kind of, and it's just for status display. And that stuff is really, it's really impressive the way that they've added that. And I think that's just, that's the thing that differentiates it, as well as the fact that it's just so deep in that way.
Yeah, that was there on the ES2, the Logic kind of native thing many years ago. This is a really underestimated synth, and Sculpture as well. They have
horrible UI though. ES2, was that the one that had the sort of the spinning centerpiece? Yeah. Wow,
yeah, but still, it's what, 20 years or something since 2006, I think, when all the instruments came out, and it's still the like sonically the sound generation is really, really high quality.
Yeah,
on that.
how
It doesn't have
interesting.
any
How funny.
effects and all that, so it's not a modern synth, but it's a good one.
Yeah, well, very valid point. Nice one. Let me just get back to our topics page. But yeah, anyway, it's worth. I would say it's worth checking out the cinematic instrument stuff anyway, because some of the things are great. But again, you're going to be tied into the Contact engine, which I suppose it makes sense if you've already got it. If you have to buy it, I don't know whether their stuff works on Player. Whether you need full Contact. Because there's two tiers, aren't there? There's the companies that do compile the stuff to work on Player, and then there's ones that you actually have to, you just have to buy the thing, and that's probably becoming a less and less, as you say, less and less kind of useful option. Right, just have a quick word from our friends over at iZotope. Discover the Music Essentials 2023 bundle. From ideation, love that word, to mastering. It's packed with all the instruments, effects and plugins to inspire you. This is everything you need to make music. From Playbox Unique, randomized sound design to Ozone Elements, all in one easy mastering tool. And the best part, for every purchase, they'll be donating to Beats by Girls, helping empower the next generation of women and gender-expansive people through music and technology, all for just $49. Once again, we thank iZotope very much for their sponsorship of the show, and don't forget, if you want to save 10% on any other software purchase, and this often works on bundle deals, use the code SONIC10 on checkout. Yeah, okay, so, gosh, it's quite liberating having done the voiceovers, because I don't have to do anything for a minute. Get a moment to have a breather. I must make more of that and do it more often. But anyway, I haven't. Right, let's have a look. What's next that we could look at? Oh, yeah, this one's nice. Strymon Brig, which is a sort of... It's a bit like a foreshortened, like Brigadier, which is their bigger kind of BBD emulation. This is Brig, and I suppose maybe they'll come out with a br or a b. Who knows? It does have a thing, doesn't it? It really does. It's got two BBD chips. I don't profess to know the answer to those, but it's what the difference is: 3005 and the 3205, plus a multi-voice mode where you can sort of join them together, and you have a stereo delay low with a golden ratio timing to create complex soundscapes and a huge stereo sound field, apparently, plus modulation, true stereo. It's a thing, isn't it? I must admit, I'd forgotten, because our world has been so kind of encompassed with reverb algorithms and complex algorithms from Eventide and all of those kind of people. Actually, just hearing a good old-fashioned BBD, which is what, maybe when you or I started out, that my first effects pedal was definitely, it was a £10 frontline delay, which didn't go very high and was grungy as hell, but had a certain something. It's really got, there's something that you sort of miss from it, and it can be very reverb-like as well, which is also quite interesting. I don't know what you think, Robbie. Are you, like me, have been seduced by the lushness of shimmers and other reverbs, or are you a delay person too? This looks nice.
I think reverb has had its little renaissance, and we've had the shimmers, and everyone's putting a shimmer in here and a shimmer in there, and I think delays have lacked a little bit of love. So it's nice to actually, hear a proper, modeling of those classic BBD chips in a little box. It's Strymon, so it's going to be good. It's going to be well made, and of course it's going to be, what was it, 260, 270 for that, which is not
$259. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So actually, it's going to be, what does that make? About 220 quid, I think. So, or maybe a little less, maybe 199. So it's not too bad. There are other alternatives. The Boss stuff is always very competent. I'm not a big pedal person, so I'm not really talking from a position of authority, but it did sound it just sounded that classic delay, and maybe now is the time for a bit of a resurgence in delays, and maybe doing some new stuff with those things, and let reverb have a breather, and then we'll get into chorus pedals, and then it'll be all hell break.
Everybody will flange. What? Come on, everybody, let's flange. Flange parties. Oh, yeah. That sounds wrong, doesn't it? I think
it does.
Flange.com.
Yeah.
Doesn't really bring studio work to mind, does it? It's more of perhaps a CD nature. I'm not sure. Anyway, I won't go there.
Flanger in the
I
night.
don't know. Flanger in the night, yeah. I don't know. I mean, delays and stereo delays used to be such a kind of mainstream. That was, you'd have your TC, your lexicon, and then you'd have one of the TCs or something which was just, the TC2290, which was the sort of top drawer of that kind of stereo delay. And it was a thing. It was just everywhere, wasn't it? And it just doesn't seem to be, delay doesn't seem like, I mean, I suppose if you're repeating something and you're EQing the feedback loop, which, everybody puts a delay plugin in their DAW, it sort of became less special somehow. But it's not. I mean, it's definitely got a thing.
There's something about the attack and the way on these analog delays, the way that it's all squashed, but the attack is not getting kind of spiky. It gets very rounded and very sort of almost like Fender Rhodes-like. So you can play a Strat into it and it comes back as almost like a keyboard or something. I love, I have this thing, which is a part of Korg, what's it called? PME 40X, which is like a floor. Oh, maybe I can show it here. So it's basically you slot. I have two of those, so I have quite a few pedals. They have
it's a modular pedal.
pedals.
I remember. Yeah.
It's from the 80s, and this is a stereo analog delay. And there's something about the sound that nothing else sounds quite like it. You can recreate the tap sound with convolution, but then you will lose the whole sort of and all that, all the dubby stuff. So for something constant, you can recreate, and modulation you can add later and stuff like that. And but there's the inherent kind of latency issue with convolution. There's something about the delay, there's something about analog delay, no doubt about it, which is good. And this unit looks nice. I think the way, what I find a bit funny is the way, I suppose that it's a pedal, so it's compact, so they have to make it stereo somehow. So I think that when you want to plug it as stereo, you use the TRS output, and when it's mono, you just use it.
Actually, that's Strymon. Let's have
because
a look
I
at
didn't see two jack outputs. It's only one, so I presume it's a TRS. So you need like an insert cable or something, which is fine. I suppose that 259. It's not cheap. It's not.
Well, Strymon stuff isn't, though, is it? I mean, it generally isn't that cheap. So I suppose it's cheaper than other Strymon offerings, which in the Strymon world, it's not expensive, I suppose.
Yeah, but from the demo, it does sound good. It does make you want to kind of have it. But I think I'm gonna. It reminded me of this, and I'm gonna fire it up and play with it later, maybe.
Use it on a mix. I'd just like to bring up that I did find this is actually flange.com, which I think it's, I'm not entirely sure what that does, but it's not what I expected. So it's certainly suitable for work. So we don't need to worry about too much of that. So I might actually call the show flange.com or Flange Party. Not sure yet. We'll see.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's great. When Strymon released stuff, I mean, they almost were responsible for the resurgence of Eventide algorithms in a way, because they effectively just released some stuff which, the Big Sky and the Capistan and all of these things which were essentially just DSP algorithms that many others already, that Eventide and Lexicon will already have these amazing things, but they just did emulation so well, and then that kind of resulted in people looking back at DSP pedals again. So I suppose they have a thing which is well worth checking out. They've got a sound. They do seem to concentrate on the sound very nice. Anyway, I just thought I'd throw that in there. Let's see what we got. What's the time? We've got 15 minutes left. I'm going to do this one because I just think it's great fun. So let me just press it. I'll try. Hopefully, I won't get busted for this. This is an article that was actually on Gear News, and this is Tame Impala in Wave Studio or Wave House, which looks like a nightmare. I mean, how's he ever going to see his screens with that massive picture window and all the curtains open and everything? So this is him. This is Kevin Parker just doing his thing. Doesn't look like he's using the Boss BR 864 and the BR 1600 CD, but it's great. And then there's actually there's a really good another video from whoops, it's not that one.
Look
this
at this
one.
studio, because this
Yeah.
is where it all began.
This is really good. Audio Haze, you check them out. He does a big exposure about the gear that was used. Because this Tame Impala album, Currents, I believe it was massive. And I've heard the name a lot. I don't really know all that much about it. It's really good little documentary about the gear involved. And just this sort of dream. It's like a fairy tale, isn't it? A guy goes to a studio, he finds this sort of beach house in the middle of nowhere and makes an album that sells millions and millions of copies. And not only that, but he records it on some sort of fairly low rent, crappy Boss multi-tracks. I mean, this is the stuff that we all used to slather about as children, as kids, when it was like, particularly when you go back and you think, Prince Sign of the Times was supposedly made all on sort of demo kit. The same, I think Eurythmics, a lot of their stuff was done on Fostex or a Tascam 8-track, and you just think, yeah, it's possible, we could do it. And it sort of hides the fact that obviously he's a very talented bloke, but it's a lovely story, isn't it?
That's the thing. He is incredibly talented. I love the stuff that he does as Tame Impala. It's so cool to see somebody who is incredibly talented in a room that's just full of gear that just I'm sure it's been assembled in a particular way, but it looks like it's just been thrown into this room, and he's walking around and he's laying down the bass line, then he goes to the drum kit and he lays down the drum loop, and then he goes somewhere else and he does this, and he just ends up with this wonderful piece of music. I've got a huge amount of time for this guy, and I just love that kind of. I think we'd all love to be in a place like that with the big picture windows and just no commitments, no mobile phones, just sit there and make music. But unfortunately, it's a rare thing. But no, it is, and the gear he uses is incredibly eclectic, and doesn't seem to be any kind of gear snobbery in there. He's just picking up and using stuff. Does it sound good? Yeah. Yes, right. It's in. Yeah.
What I know is there's a hell of a lot of 80s/90s PA and recording microphones. Yeah. AKG 451s, which used to use as hi-hats, incredibly hyped top end, which I guess used to would cut through on the tape formulations that everybody had at the time, and also 421s, Sennheiser 421s, which are the drum that I used to use them on toms, and a load of 57s. I just thought that was really interesting. I mean, when we did your track explode or track breakdown thing of the thing you did for the story there, I was just shocked at the stuff that you were using to get it in there. But I suppose you could do so much more after the fact now to kind of bring it into line. It's get it while you can, right?
Yeah, I think that there's something very natural and organic about, but that's his sound or their sound. What you see is what you get, or what you hear is what you get, because you hear something which is very lo-fi, very kind of, you can almost hear that everything is unbalanced because you have that kind of fat, everything sounds bigger. I remember that from the time I used to before I started working in big studios and the whole kind of ultimate quality and equipment and all that. But it's when it's combined with the talent and the intention, then you get something really kind of lovely and magical, and it kind of busts the whole myth about good gear and all that, because the whole thing is recorded into a shitty digital, Roland Boss sort of 8-track. So it's all kind of 16-bit. It's all that, but it works. That's his sound, and that's what it is. So it doesn't matter whether it's digital or analog and all that. It's the intention and the playfulness and the musicality and the imagination. which comes to play here. It's not about the gear.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's interesting what you say there. I mean, I wonder how much of that stuff we're kind of almost being spoon-fed a little bit because it was mixed by somebody else, and I'd like to have a conversation with them how they dealt with all of these the technical limitations. Maybe it all just was push the phase up and wow, that's amazing, or maybe a lot of the magic we hear in the album was brought in by or enhanced by
with
the guy
stuff like that. You know that it's been recorded like that. You know that when you're
Right.
going to push the faders, you're going to get the vibe. It's not like you have to reconstruct it in the mix to make it lo-fi intentionally. It's actually lo-fi. It's recorded like that. And the drums are recorded with like 3 mics or 4 mics or something like that. And that's what you have. And a lot of the music we grew up on was done like that. So there's no reason why it shouldn't sound good.
I think the thing that struck me is because I don't know the name of the guy from Audio Haze. He's great on camera. He's got a really good delivery and he's very compelling what he says. But he was saying that and there was showing pictures of where the two AKG 451s, which were basically used as overheads, and I'm not hearing the sound of 451s on any of the drum stuff because it's very, very bright. I mean, the 451s, I've got a 451 somewhere and I used to use it and I'd put it on a hi-hat and it was like you put it on a hi-hat and you have to take all the top end off.
Very
because
brittle.
It's like it's like a razor. It's quite unpleasant actually. So maybe he's got some magic he puts it into to tame it off as well. I don't know.
Or a bucket brigade.
That's why it's
delay,
called Tame Impala.
Hey.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, there's magic. It's all about the talent of people, and it's all about the magic that it brings. That's what we do.
Yeah.
And if we, myself as a producer and a mixer, if I can help with that, that's the intention. That's what I do. It's not about reconstructing the music. It's about finding what the essence of the track or the song or the production or the beat is and turning it into a product. But the more you have already there, the easier it is.
It's interesting. I always used to be terrified about when when I was doing this for a living, and we started making records, and so I would be remixing things. Everything would be done in my studio with my crappy gear and what have you. And then when we got a record deal and we had to go to a studio to make a record, and all the demos and stuff I'd done, I had a Fostex G16, and we kind of that whole thing of having to go in and having it kind of picked apart. I found really distressing. I really did not enjoy it whatsoever because it's sort of like it felt like the smoke and mirrors that I'd used to construct the thing would all evaporate, and you'd just be left with this sort of a load of cobwebs and sticky tape, and it was like, well, where's the stuff? Where did it all go? So I think there's what you say. I mean, and when you're working with an artist where that might be an issue for them, it's also about making them feel comfortable that what you're going to do isn't going to kind of make them feel inadequate, I suppose, which with inexperienced people, I suppose you might get quite a lot. People who've just sort of suddenly found themselves in a position where they've been asked to do something properly, I guess, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's you can make great music with just an acoustic guitar. Everyone has an acoustic or can get an acoustic guitar, but very few people can make it resonate or emotionally. And that's what it's all about. It's not, so it's almost like making, this whole show kind of,
it's not about the gear, kids.
because we're talking about gear and all that, but it's not about that.
No,
it's talent as well. Do you remember when magazines like Future Music in the 90s used to come with a cover mount CD, and on that CD would be like some readers' tunes. Like there'd be 3. They'd select 3 tunes that had been submitted by readers. And I'd be in my little corner of the front room with like 2 or 3 synths and a computer, trying my hardest to make something that sounded somewhat decent. And I listened to one of these tracks and it sounded amazing. And I looked at it, the liner notes, and it was this one guy with a standard kind of PC and a Sound Blaster All 64 sound card. And what he got out of that sound card was just incredible. And it's just that one sound card, the built-in synthesizers and a few samples, and it sounded amazing. And I almost just gave up there and then realized it's not what you've got, he says, sitting in front of all this stuff. It's not what you've got in terms of equipment. You've got to have some modicum of talent and ability to use this. But also, I think the thing I took away from this Tame Impala video is you've got to have some freedom, and you've got to get rid of those things that distract you. And if you can find a place, whether it's a beachfront house or whether it's a shed at the bottom of the garden or whether it's your mother's basement, but it's somewhere you can shut off and just focus on being creative, that really does help.
Yeah, I think that's very true. I suppose that, my follow-up question would be, where's the place for you that either you haven't got or you have got but you don't get to very often? I mean, making a creative space where you can be creative is partly, it's about, like you say, it's about the room and the gear. But there was no internet and no cell signal. So essentially, it's like going camping with a studio, because for most of us, that sort of stuff is, you can't. So then I suppose the intent would be, okay, this is ready. Now I'm going to bounce this tune. I'm going to put it into a format. I'm going to drive to the place where I can go to be able to send it to somebody else to listen to. So the barrier to entry is much higher, I suppose, in a way. You're not just going to sort of go, oh, this was fun. I don't know what you think about it. You're not going to be bothered. There's a lot of self-selection going on there, which I think is probably quite an important part of what that album finally became, because presumably there was nobody got to have any input because you couldn't hear it until something was done, at least. So, interesting.
Yeah, you've got to have that freedom, I think, as well.
Yeah, it'd be nice, wouldn't it? Okay, well, that feels like quite a positive note to end on, and I feel sort of a sense of accomplishment that we've got this far, and there are still a couple of topics left, and it's summer. We might keep them on the back burner because you never know, summer is a slow time, and we'll wait and see. But I do encourage you I nearly forgot about this, actually. I should probably just, before we go, if you're interested in coming along to our EMOM event, I'll put the link here. Is that, there we go. We've got our EMOM. Well, that's actually not the light. So do check that out. Tickets available. Tickets is well worth it, because last time we were actually very nearly sold out. We got some. I want to say thank you so much to John. He did a great job on the graphics. Love the graphics on this one. Yeah, 7 acts. Friday, September the 8th. 7 till late. Charlie's Bar will also be live streamed if you can't make it in person. Obviously, that's free. But battery operated orchestra and Finlay Shakespeare worth the price of entry alone, which is only £7 or something to cover costs. So we're really fortunate that we'll be able to get such great acts, and I thoroughly recommend that if you can, come along. And if you can't, then definitely check the stream out and try and come along to another one. But thank you. Okay, so Robbie, what's next for you then? When's the next show? You do your show. What day do you show on?
We do it on Fridays at 7 p.m. UK time. So as you said,
that's Synth Pro Network, yeah.
Pro Synth Network, yeah.
Pro Synth Network, sorry.
So so if you just go to YouTube and search Pro Synth Network, or at Pro Synth Network, you'll find us there. 7 p.m. UK for 2 hours. We've got one this Friday. It's just going to be a little bit of news and just chat. But we do have, in a couple of weeks' time, Anthony Marinelli, who's the guy that's been doing all these Michael Jackson videos, because he was a synth programmer and engineer on Thriller and a whole bunch of other stuff as well. And I thought I took a punt, because I've been really enjoying his videos. So I took a punt and just emailed him, and he got back to me the next day and said, I'd love to come on the show. It sounds great. Let's do it. So he's coming on, I think it's August 25th. It's like the last Friday in August or something. So yeah, really looking forward to that, and hopefully we'll get a few more interesting guests on. Mick McNeil from Simple Minds is going to come back. Just spoke to him the other day, and a few others we've got up our sleeve. But yeah, there's lots of that, and I'm just prepping, doing some reviews for Gear News and prepping for this Synthfest seminar on the 7th of October. So come to Sheffield. I think everybody generally does. You'll obviously be there. We'll see each other.
Yep.
It's a good day out.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much. And Yoad, are you about to alt tab into your Atmos mix and get back into it, or have you got a bit of a break or something else going on?
No, I'm in the middle of a mix, and I'm gonna go dive straight back. Yeah.
Nice. True multitasking. Excellent. Well, thanks, everybody. Thanks to all of you folks in the chat room and the chatties. Lovely to have you aboard as ever. I think we go to our 4 shot. Yeah, there we go. That's the one we got. That's it for this week. That was Sonic Talk, episode 765. In fact, it was. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you all next time. Take care. Bye-bye now.